and you are set.
Okay, thank you, James. Good afternoon, everybody. It is November 3rd, 2022. It is about 5:17. And this is the regular scheduled meeting of the Reynolds School Project Building Committee. Jeff, could you do the roll call, please?
Yes, members are asked to signify their presence when their name is called. Councilor Camillo.
Here.
Councilor Rada.
Here.
Ms. Drazad.
Here.
Ms. Parati.
Here.
Ms. Dugan.
Here.
Mr. Wetzel.
Here.
Mr. Woods.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next item is public participation, and we have no one with us,
Correct.
right? So we'll move, take action on the prior meeting minutes, which we have one.
Actually, you have two. You have the meeting of the 20th and the corrected minutes of October 6th.
Oh, okay. I only printed the corrected ones. Okay. So I would entertain a motion for the corrected minutes for October 6th, as well as our regular meeting on October 20th. Is that correct? Yes, right in front of me.
Make
Someone?
the motion.
Thank you, Carol. And a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Any discussion or corrections, further corrections? Everybody okay with what we have? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is take action on invoices. Jeff?
Yeah, you had no invoices that were received that were distributed to the committee for their consideration. So I had some invoices today that were distributed to the owner's project manager, but there are none that were attached to the minutes and the agenda. And so therefore, there's no action to take.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Next item is architects update. Jennifer?
Good evening. We're continuing the same items that we've been doing, reviewing any potential change orders, doing a review of submittals, reviewing and answering requests for information from contractors, attending regular weekly meetings, and other on-site reviews. As far as the furniture, fixtures, and equipment package goes, actually at the next meeting, we will be presenting that final package, the plans and specifications that we would like to take to the state. The Board of Education review of that package is happening on November 16th. We're on the agenda for that. And then we'll bring it to you. They do need to sign off and approve that to go to the state for review. I believe I mentioned before, though, that's pretty much all state contract, things that can be procured from state contract. So most furniture is new. There are some, a little bit of reuse of some student chairs and a few tables here and there that we're reusing. But we were able to put into the package mostly new furniture. For instance, the media center, cafeteria tables, most student desks are new. So it's, it's a pretty decent package. But I will, after review with the Board of Ed, we will bring it to you. And since it's all from a state contract, you could decide how to purchase that and whether you feel comfortable in purchasing it all, but we want the approval from the state, so you have that option of whether to go out and make those purchases or not. It doesn't need to be bid if it can be purchased from a state contract. So that makes it a little easier. And that's about it for my update today, unless there's any questions.
Good. Just to be clear, so even though we get state approval, we don't need to go out and buy it all. We only buy it either, we could buy it all if we want, but then we have to store it because we're not ready for it. So we just purchase it as the site becomes complete, correct?
Right, you can purchase it as needed. You could purchase it in phases. and so on. If there's any escalation though,
Yes.
you know, you'd have to potentially balance if there's going to be any price increases coming up. You know, what's that like versus storing? And you know, I guess that decision is going to need to be made. You won't have a crystal ball necessarily to see what the price increases are going to be. But that is what it is, I guess.
Let me ask you one more question. As far as bidding off of the state list, the contracted list, are there dates that they have to hold the prices for? So, or can they change at any point?
I believe the prices are held for a certain period of time. The contract has a beginning and end date.
Yeah, that's what I
So,
thought.
yeah, I will double check that, but I know that the contracts are reviewed and do have an expiration date. So I think they're locked in for that period of time. So I will check on the contract so I can report, you know.
Yeah, so,
more
knowing
definitively.
that, right, we could maybe make a more of an educated decision. If we have, several months or 6 months or a year, we probably don't have much to worry about. If they're
Right.
expiring 3 weeks from the time we get approval, we might want to take action.
Right.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Carol?
If we were to purchase the furniture early, would it be possible to put it in some of the old classrooms rather than store it? Or do you just want to wait until the new classrooms are ready?
I think we'd have to store it off-site, just like we're doing now with the furniture, Carol. So there'd be a little bit of a moving cost, and then we'd have to weigh that. Storage cost is minimal. It's really the moving in and out. Even that's not outrageous, but and weigh that against what the potential increase pricing is. And then suppliers typically know that. They'll let you know because obviously it pushes sales, and a lot of these are driven off of commission, right? So if there's going to be a 6 or 8 or 10% increase, they usually get in their emails and start sending these out like, hey, June 1st, we expect a 12% increase. So if you're going to buy now, or buyer beware.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Jeremy?
I was just going to ask, in these cases of moving things around, I mean, we're paying people to do this. Is this something that we can source from within the town already, such as maybe from the BOE or the town, maybe the DPW or anybody of that nature?
I think some of it, yes, but then what we do lose is any reimbursement if it's done with our own forces.
Okay.
So it's not reimbursable, from the state. Again, don't think we're talking about a lot of money, but it's something that we would need to also factor in.
Thank you.
Anyone
Just
else?
so that you're aware, we
Go ahead.
do move internally what can be done. They have used the NPS staff to move certain things, but the boxes and the furniture, we use Meyer.
Okay. Might as well, we're going to move on right to you, Eileen, owner's project manager update.
Okay, as Jeff stated, there were some invoices that came in today. It was KBA, IES, Meyer, and Freeman Associates. So those will be in the agenda for next meeting, along with another monitoring company. So currently, we are going over requisitions, change orders, RFIs. Today, I had a move meeting with the staff. I am working a lot with Craig Holland, the director of IT, coordinating technology with him and Jennifer Rich, the subcontractors. We had some meetings on site. Things are going well, progressing along. And then another thing I talked to Steve about, this is not on the agenda, but I'm hoping that we can possibly take action on this. We have a hazmat environmental monitoring. Our PO for Enviromed is pretty much coming to the end. 2 invoices came in today, which puts us over 34K, and the purchase order is for 35 and change. So I spoke to Steve about this today. We also have a new invoice in from them, which Jeff has not seen yet. But it goes into the next phase for PCB testing A and C. So we really need to try and get a new purchase order for $35,000 is the current recommendation. And you should all know that Jeff Barron and I are working together to get out a bid for environmental services just to see if we can try and do better with pricing. And that should be hitting the streets, I think, December 2nd. Or they're due back December 2nd. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Eileen. And just so
Thank you.
everybody's clear, this is not the 35 that Eileen's requested. We still have budgeted money in that account. We kind of
Yes.
only took out what we thought we needed for the first phase, but some testing is now getting done for the next phases. So we're just taking money from that. This money won't come from our contingency. It'll come from project funds that are already included. Any questions for Eileen?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
Is it, are we over budget or we're just ahead of schedule? Like this is phase 2 monitoring that has to be done anyways, and they're just doing it earlier than anticipated?
So there's still money left in that account right now, somewhere around $7,000. So it's not enough to cover the invoices that go into the next phase. So will we be able to stay under budget? I doubt it. I don't know how far we're going to go over. It just depends on how intensive the testing gets down the road. The problem with the testing is if they don't get it clean the first time, they have to come back and resample. And the tests are expensive. The tests are about $100. I think they're $90 a test. That's just the testing fee. Now they don't have to test everything over. They only have to retest the hot areas. But it's some crazy formula, and either Rich or Eileen help me. I mean, it's like a test for every 5 square feet or something.
Yeah. For instance, in A and C wing, the PCB test had to be done every 5 feet. So it ended up being 285 tests, and they all came back clear. But now the invoice for that is quite substantial, as you can imagine. And so we do have 120,000 budgeted currently for monitoring this consulting services. We've used 35K, and I'm requesting now another 35K for the PCB clearance testing.
That help, Amy?
Kinda. So just to be clear, I'm 100% on board with environmental testing, and I think it's absolutely necessary, required, and I know it's expensive. I'm just curious, this is still testing in phase 1 areas, or right? And so when you said it was like phase 2, I guess I was confused.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, because that is, I'm thinking of the work in the summer. Everything is a different stage. So technically, yes, we're still finishing stage 1 for the AC wing.
And it's just more than we anticipated needing.
It wasn't, no, I didn't put in for the testing of the PCB abatement.
Okay.
I only put in for the summer abatement, the 35,000 to cover that.
Okay.
And then there's also several unforeseen items that unfortunately come up, and they also affect this budget. So there's a little bit of that as well.
Makes sense. And so there's Environmed, we have more testing to be done and invoices that are going to come in. So you're requesting additional
Yeah.
purchase order. And then can you explain what's going out to bid?
Sure. Yep, so a package for the remaining phases, which is abatement stage 2, abatement stage 3, and then the PCB clearance and testing for the rest of the project. And anything that they run into currently on site.
So we never went out to bid in the first place. It was just, we called Enviromed because they're a contractor that we work with.
Um,
The Board of Ed,
I-
the Board of Ed uses Enviromed pretty much exclusively in their schools. They know all their schools. They've done all the testing, have all the reports done. So they know where to go to find where they think they'll find the hot spots, right? So we're not paying somebody to start that learning curve.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't see anybody's hand up. And I can only see your hand raised if I see your face. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Eileen.
Thank you.
Rich, the construction manager's update. You're next. The picture guy.
All right. And just to add a little bit to what Eileen was saying about some of these like unforeseen things that we come across with the environmental testing. And when we start demoing these walls, we'll find conditions very similar to known conditions where there's been behind a chalkboard or whatnot has been identified as being hot. And there are times we have to call in the environmental testing agent to come in and verify that those conditions are or are not hot for the safety of the workers and everybody else. So there are, as much as their reports are out there, there are conditions where we do find that we have to call them back in. So I know those obviously are included in what Eileen is discussing as far as those unforeseen conditions. So it is something that, you know, as much research as they do ahead of time, there are always going to be those unknowns that do pop up. But we can go on to photos here. First one I have here, this is an 800 amp disconnect that we have. That's the box on the right side with the brown, orange, and yellow cables running through it. These are for the new transformer that Eversource is going to be landing out in the parking lot. So this is a new 480 volt service coming into the building. This is a disconnect we've been waiting on since the summer. We were originally planning on putting it in prior to the start of school, but seeing as it arrived this week, we're installing this week, and now we are in communication with Eversource, attempting to come up with a date for a power shutdown, trying to work around the school's calendar to have an off day for Eversource to come in. We need an 8-hour shutdown of the power to tie in the new electrical service. And this 480 volt service is what is going to be provided to the new boiler pumps, as well as the rooftop units for air handlers for the new equipment coming in. So we do have temporary provisions right now to run all of that through the first 2 stages, but it'd be much better to run this obviously off the permanent equipment, which we now have our portion all in hand to get the service energized from Eversource. So we are working towards that now. We'll keep everyone involved in the school, principal Jason involved, and which dates we end up doing these cutovers and everything as to not interrupt any of the services at the school. Another thing electrical related, which was one of the contingent items listed in the phasing revision plan last week, was the elevator disconnect. The electrical contractor has procured the electrical disconnect that we're going to need. So I believe we had a December date, which was the requirement to receive that to be able to complete the turnover of stage 1. And at this point, we don't see that being an issue anymore with the equipment in hand. It'll just be a matter of installing that electrical gear, and we'll be able to keep moving forward with the state elevator inspection, because it's a very special disconnect that has things like the fire alarm tied into it, because the elevator has to function with the fire alarm. So we have been able to get that. So that's one thing off that list that we need to do to make sure we take this phase over. Here we have the elevator addition. The brick facade is going on, so the gray black material that you see behind up on the wall near the rebar ties up top is the AVB, air vapor barrier, that's applied to the block, which is the structural element of the elevator addition. So that'll keep your moisture out of the building. Outside of that it's harder to see in this picture, but there's the black foam board installation, and then the brick facade is stacked outside of that. Here's another picture also on that. This is where the EF wing ties into the elevator addition with the new brick right in front of you behind the scaffolding. So we're continuing that work through next week. But the elevator inside, you can see here, this is from the lower level entrance in. The rails that you see right in the center of that door frame inside the elevator shaft are there supporting the car. The car is up above the top of the door frame right now because it is docked currently at the upper level in A wing. But the elevator install from Otis is largely complete. They've demobilized off site. That car is functioning as far as construction use is concerned. So we've gotten the door frames in, and the masonry blocking has now been able to go in afterwards. We had to hold off the last of the masonry around the door frame until the elevator was installed. Here's another angle from there. So all this block that you see is newer, and you can even see a bit of slight darker coloring where the mortar's still wet between the new block that was installed after the elevator door was installed. This is on the upper level, which is of the elevator, which is the A wing, which is behind the custodian's office and behind the stage. Today they were still working up there. Masons are adding block in around this door frame as well, just as they did on the lower level. They're also working to install the block for the machine room, which is in the back half or the right side of this picture. They're working to build that out. The electrical gear is from Otis, and all their mechanical gear is in that room already. We need to now build the room around it. This is additional work the masons are doing on site. This is, you can see on the right side there, cut off is the current entrance door. So these are the new doors that'll be going into the main office space. There's going to be the vestibule in this area as well. This picture was taken sometime last week, and then this is what it looks like currently. So they've since blocked everything up. This is a shot from the entrance coming in, so there would be an additional vestibule frame installed in this area, and then the main office will be on the right side here. You can still see in the background here on the right, we have mechanical ductwork is going in place. It's on the floor right now, it's working its way up into the ceilings, and then and the ceiling here above the this window opening, you can see is all the refrigerant piping prefab box that was installed, and they're piping off of that now, working their way through the building. We have gotten a lot cleaned up in the past couple of weeks with, as far as anything on the interior, the mechanicals that were prefabbed, anything which was like ductwork and other piping conduits were all delivered to the site, and they were cluttered over the floor. We've since, obviously, that stuff has gotten kind of put into place. You can see the ductwork overhead here. We do have some stud work left that we're working on now. Again, here you can see we still have some ductwork on the ground that we're working to get up in the air. I think last week I showed a picture that had probably 20 times as much ductwork sitting on the floor that we've since gotten installed in place. You can also see copper lines running overhead, refrigerant piping, plumbing piping, fire protection, and the hot water off the boiler feed is in this area as well. So we're working through that. Here's another photo from the, this is from the north classrooms in the C wing, which is facing towards the parking lot. These toilet rooms were plumbed up, the plumbing insulated, toilet carriers are installed in place, and then since then this has all been covered up. It's buried in this masonry wall, so you can see where our plumbing stub outs are coming out. Everything's roughed in behind, been inspected by the town building inspector, and we're basically working our way out of the mechanical rough, and we're working into the architectural finishes here, working towards that phase now. And another thing that we've been doing this past week is preparing for winter conditions here. This unit you can see with the hoses running off of it is a unit heater. So there's a fan on the back of this, and it runs the boiler loop, runs in and through this radiator essentially, and used to heat the space temporarily for the winter conditions. We're going to be getting into, so we need to provide temp heat in these spaces because of things like drywall finishes and flooring and millwork can require conditioned spaces, minimum temperatures. We need to maintain those sort of things before we can continue installing, which is it's a pretty typical thing for us in construction to around this time of year begin providing temporary heats as needed for our exterior or interior finishes rather. But right now that's where we stand with the construction update.
Thank you, Rich. Any questions for Rich?
I think it looks great. I was in there last week and already like a huge change from just a week and a half ago. So great job.
I was in there 2 days ago and there's a big change. Yeah, it is. It's starting to really come along, which is nice to see. I don't see anybody's hands up. Just going to confirm that. Nope. So the next item is any other business pertinent to the committee. Jeff, do we need action from the committee to issue that other purchase order, seeing it's not really new money or we're not taking it from our contingency?
Well, you're over the charter bid limit of $30,000. Now you have this Enviromed was selected as a result of an RFP.
Yep.
So you're covered as far as that goes. And no, you do not need any additional action to encumber money for them. But once the pricing is received from the proposals that are received,
Yep.
then the committee will need to take action on that.
Okay. All right. So nothing now.
No.
All right. Anybody else have anything? Any questions? Any comments? Any concerns? My lights just turned down. It must mean it's time to ask members again, because the next item is comments by members. Anybody? We'll give it one more time. And then we still have no public, so motion to adjourn, please.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And I'm sure there's no one opposed. So good night, everyone, or good afternoon. It's still actually kind of light out. See you in 2 weeks, I think it is. Right,
Thank
Jeff?
you.
Weeks. Yep.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you, James.